Data shows that at the end of April, global investors withdrew a net US $3.17 billion from Chinese stocks through the cross-border trading platform. The top management of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, is very anxious. The party leader Xi Jinping chaired a Politburo meeting on April 28th and stressed the importance of stabilizing the basic market of foreign trade and investment. The question is, will the government be able to stabilize it? Before we start today, I would like to recommend the sponsor of the video, ExpressVPN. As we all know, the Chinese government has strict internet censorship, and people in mainland China have no freedom of speech online. However, there is also a problem with internet surveillance for people outside of mainland China. For example, internet service providers such as AT&T and Verizon in the United States record your browsing history and various data and sell this information to advertisers, which is completely legal in the US. In some countries, the government even forces internet providers to collect data from their internet users for years and are allowed to look at your information whenever they want, without your consent or knowledge. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your internet traffic through their secure servers and encrypts it. This prevents your internet service provider from seeing what you're doing and tracking it so they can sell it to advertisers or hand it over to government entities. And it's not just your internet service provider you have to worry about. Did you know that Wi-Fi operators can also see what you're doing online? So whether you're using the internet at school, in your office, at a cafe, or even at home, the admin of the network can see everything you do too. Do you really want your boss to see what you're browsing for? But ExpressVPN can help you shield all of your information. My favorite thing about ExpressVPN is how easy it is to use. Simply click a button and you're done. ExpressVPN is the most reputable VPN and has been rated the best VPN tool by major tech companies such as CNET and TechRadar. So, if you value your online privacy, use my link and you'll get an extra 3 months totally free. Go to expressvpn.com/China Insights to find out how you can get 3 extra months free. Okay, moving on to today's topic. The Wall Street Journal reported on April 28th, citing data from a research firm, that global investors withdrew a net US $3.17 billion from Chinese stocks through the Shanghai Shenzhen Hong Kong Stock Connect in the 5 days ending on April 26th. This is the longest period of capital outflows since November 2022. Bloomberg reported that the MSCI China Index fell 2.6% on April 25th, the 6th straight day of declines and the longest since October 2022. The Hang Seng China Enterprises Index, which is made up of Chinese companies listed in Hong Kong, fell more than 5% cumulatively in April, ranking second to last among more than 90 global stock indexes tracked by Bloomberg. As mentioned in the Bloomberg article, Bank of America strategists wrote in a report that European investors were frustrated with the sluggish performance of Chinese markets last week, similar to Hong Kong China investors. Investors are also questioning the accuracy of official CCP macro data as corporate earnings and earnings guidance remain weak. According to a Reuters report, Canada's third largest pension fund, the Ontario Teachers' Pension Plan, has closed its China equity investment team in Hong Kong. The chief investment officer of Comet Capital Partners told Reuters that foreign funds now prefer to buy financial products not directly related to China's economic recovery, not stocks in China or Hong Kong. He said investors still don't trust China, or they are sensitive to the possibility of investing there. The global investors' worries are by no means unwarranted. Recently, the Xi Jinping government is creating a National Data Bureau as the top regulatory authority for data-related work. It will also push for stronger regulation in the financial sector by creating a National Financial Supervision and Administration Authority that will take over the supervision of banks, insurance, and other industries, as well as some of the responsibilities of the central bank. The red state has an advantage in gathering and compiling data, which makes it a powerful weapon for the Beijing government. Surely, in public, CCP officials are very good at painting rosy pictures. It is widely believed that we should accelerate technological innovation in data concepts and applications and strengthen cooperation and exchanges in the field of statistics so as to promote global economic recovery with rich and detailed statistical data and advanced and efficient technical means. Meanwhile, on April 26, 2023, the Chinese National People's Congress passed the newly revised anti-espionage law. It'll come into effect on July 1, 2023. The definition of espionage in the law has been expanded to include documents, data, information, and articles related to national security and interests. The vague definition of the provision has made foreign companies even more nervous. Even if we accidentally fall into a trap, we can still save ourselves. Article 27 of the Anti-Espionage Law of the People's Republic of China clearly stipulates that for espionage, those who surrender themselves or perform meritorious service may be given a lighter, mitigated, or exempted punishment. Those who perform major meritorious service shall be rewarded. The measures for rewarding citizens for reporting acts of espionage provides clear provisions for the administration of the reward. This will undoubtedly make many foreign companies believe that the business environment in China is deteriorating. Foreign executives are concerned that the newly revised anti-espionage law has the potential to turn routine business activities into crimes involving national security. Several foreign investors are concerned about these moves and believe that they could lead to further concentration of power. RFI reported that the Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary said at a press conference on April 27th, "We have asked the Chinese side for a detailed explanation of this law and for transparency in law enforcement and judicial procedures, and we remind Japanese people in China to be very careful and to take corresponding measures in the future." On March 20th, 2023, a senior executive of a renowned Japanese pharmaceutical company was detained by the Chinese police. The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that he was detained on suspicion of violating criminal law and anti-espionage law. This incident caused strong repercussions in Japan, and some companies expressed concern about the safety of their employees in China. U.S.-China relations have been on a downward trend. Chinese police have recently raided the Shanghai office of Bain & Company, a U.S. management consulting firm, and seized their computers and cell phones.
Regarding the situation surrounding Bain & Company that you mentioned, I'm not aware of the situation. You're concerned if there are other companies. I do not have the relevant information either. I would like to stress that China welcomes enterprises from all countries to carry out economic and trade cooperation in China. We're also always committed to creating a market-oriented, lawful, and international business environment. Of course, China is also a country under the rule of law, so any enterprise in China should abide by the law and operate legally.
In March, the Beijing office of Mintz Group, a due diligence company, was raided. The Chinese authorities detained 5 Chinese employees as well. In addition, Micron Technology, an Idaho-based memory chip manufacturer, is also under the so-called national security investigation by the Chinese government. The latest survey by the American Chamber of Commerce in China shows that 87% of American companies surveyed in China are pessimistic about the Sino-US relations, a 14% increase from the survey half a year ago. Nearly 30% of the respondents will give priority to other countries when investing, nearly 5 times that of 2022. Susan Clark, CEO of the American Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest chamber of commerce, said in a statement on April 28 that they are closely monitoring Chinese scrutiny of U.S. professional services and due diligence firms. Founded in 1912, the American Chamber of Commerce is one of the most powerful business lobbying groups in the U.S. It represents approximately 1,500 state and local chambers of commerce and 3 million companies and businesses across the country. It regularly engages with Washington officials. It says, in the context of China's new counter-espionage law, which casts a wide net over the range of documents, data, or materials considered relevant to national security, the additional scrutiny of firms providing essential business services dramatically increases the uncertainties and risks of doing business in the People's Republic. This lobby group urged Beijing to consult with foreign companies on the revised anti-espionage law that would provide reasonable clarity and address investors' concerns. The crisis in China's stock market comes amid a lot of negative geopolitical noise recently, including President Joe Biden's executive order restricting investment and comments by the Chinese ambassador to France about the former Soviet state. All of this has forced investors to think carefully before investing. Xi Jinping had planned to launch a charm offensive with foreign investors in the West. Beijing announced it was reopening its borders to attract global companies and talent, and Xi presented a peace plan for Ukraine in February and discussed it with Putin in Russia in March. Beijing touted Xi's help in brokering a rebuilding diplomatic deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Xi also hosted a high-profile reception for visiting French President Macron, hosting a state dinner and inviting Macron to tea. But Xi's efforts were undermined by his diplomat, who was interviewed by a French news station on April 21st, claiming that the Chinese would decide the fate of the Taiwanese and that the Communist Party would use all necessary means to recover Taiwan if peaceful reunification is impossible. At the same time, when the host mentioned that Mao Zedong had killed millions of people, diplomat Liu Xiaoye retorted that the host wasn't well read. But the most shocking thing he said was, former Soviet Union countries don't have actual status in international law because there is no international agreement to materialize their sovereign status. His remarks triggered a tsunami of criticism in Europe. Nearly 80 members of the European Parliament issued an open letter urging the French government to expel Liu Xiaoye.
It is totally unacceptable. We are denouncing such a statement, and I hope that the bosses of this ambassador will make things straight.
Well, first of all, it's completely unacceptable. And later today, 3 Baltic states will be summoning representatives, in our case the Charge d'Affaires, in other capitals is the ambassador, to ask for clarification. Has Chinese position changed on the independence? And to remind him that we are not post-Soviet countries, we were the countries that were illegally occupied by Soviet Union.
But China is an interlocutor, but we need to respect our position, we need to respect the European Union, we need to respect every member state. We respect China, I think it's important to respect us. This is crucial.
Il faut que la Chine nous dise que cette position.
China needs to tell us that that position, the position of the ambassador in Paris, is not the official position of China. Because if that were the case, the whole of the international order would really be flattened. For the French government, which has just signed a large order with the CCP, expelling the CCP ambassador will embarrass Beijing and draw its wrath. Therefore, the odds of France expelling a CCP official isn't high. It's not the first time Liu Xiaoye, 58, a prominent representative of China's abrasive wolf warrior diplomacy, has courted controversy since taking up his post in Paris in 2019. A few months earlier, in August 2022, Liu had weighed in on China's perennial bugbear, the democratically governed island of Taiwan, which Beijing claims as its own. Liu said that Taiwanese people have been brainwashed by ideas about independence and that they can become patriots after being re-educated. On April 24th, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson set out the official stance of the government during a regular news conference in Beijing when asked if China stood behind the envoy's remarks.
The Soviet Union was a federal state, and externally as a whole, it had the status of being a subject of international law. This does not deny that after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the various republics have the status of sovereign states. First of all, I would like to tell you that my statement represents the official position of the Chinese government. Secondly, in respecting the territorial sovereignty and independence of all countries and upholding the principles of the purposes of the United Nations Charter, China is undoubtedly the country with the best record.
Although Liu Xiaoye was denied here, the question to ask is why this diplomat dared to say so. The CCP tradition has been diplomacy is never a trivial matter. All speeches in diplomatic settings, especially those made by ambassadors in major countries such as France, have special instructions from the Beijing government, and individuals are in no position to play it up. Maybe Ambassador Liu Xiaoye has overplayed his hand this time. He shouldn't be punished though, because what he did is, in reality, the main feature of the so-called great power diplomacy of the CCP. That is, playing a war wolf. Liu Xiaoye has revealed the real state of the CCP's present thinking. The CCP doesn't recognize the international law and the world that has existed since World War II. This is consistent with its ideology of daring to fight and daring to fight hard. Then it came to show a nice gesture from the party leader Xi Jinping, who spoke with Ukrainian President Zelensky on April 26th. Xi Jinping talked about the history of cooperation in China-Ukraine relations, claiming respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. China's position on the Ukrainian crisis is to urge peace and promote dialogue. Xi also criticized, without naming names, that some great powers are watching the fire from the other side and pouring oil on the fire. He seems to do damage control over what Liu said in order to please Europe, but the effect of Liu's comments has already been felt, making it virtually impossible to undo the damage. Moreover, it has undermined Xi Jinping's plan to portray the Communist Party as a peacemaker. Such diplomatic chaos is difficult for party leaders to control, as the CCP pursues a mindset that runs counter to universal values and therefore reveals its true colors from time to time. For Xi Jinping, who is trying to reshape the CCP's image on the global stage after 3 years of isolation over the COVID-19 outbreak, Liu's missteps appear to be yet another setback for Xi. Chinese stock traders are already worried about US-China relations, and arguably the episode of Liu Xiaoye has compounded investors' concerns about geopolitical risks. For a while now, the world has been watching intently where the Chinese economy is going. Previously, the Chinese government released its first quarter GDP growth as 4.5%, exceeding global expectations. A few months ago, the authorities extended to global investors another message of openness to business as well. Major Wall Street banks have subsequently become optimistic about China's growth in 2023, with UBS, for example, raising its forecast from China from 5.4% to 5.7%, Citibank from 5.7% to 6.1%, and JP Morgan Chase even more so, raising it from 6% to 6.4%. We are skeptical about the validity of the Chinese government's figures. The Communist Party's Politburo meeting on April 28th has actually spelled out the true picture. The meeting pointed out that the current improvement in China's economic performance is mainly restorative. The domestic driving force is still not strong, demand is still insufficient, economic transformation and upgrading face new resistance, and promoting high-quality development still needs to overcome many difficult challenges. All of this official speech, when translated into plain language, means the economy is not back to normal yet, nor is it likely to be as sustainable as the officials have said before. In reality, the data released by the China Bureau of Statistics on April 27th has already tipped off that the Chinese economy is in bad shape. From January to March, among industrial enterprises above the scale, the profit of state-controlled enterprises fell 16.9%, the profit of joint stock enterprises fell 20.6%, the profit of foreign invested enterprises Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan fell 24.9%, and the profit of private enterprises fell 23%. For 41 major industries, except for 10 that had small growth, the vast majority of them are declining. Unfortunately, until today, many people, including Wall Street bankers, are still under the illusion that China will still create another economic miracle under the political oppression of the CCP. For such people, who knows when they will wake up from their illusions?